Hey, it is Sunday, July 9th, and tomorrow I start writing again. So there's a few things left undone on my board from June. I kind of had the first week of July being flex time where I was hoping that I could finish everything, but I didn't quite make it there. There's just a couple projects left for my other channel that I couldn't get to, a couple home improvement things, but for the most part things got done, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to writing tomorrow. So right now, I know you're not going to see this until probably the end of July, and everything is just kind of going to be catch up, but I'm probably going to try vlogging like a week and a half at a time and then give myself a few days to edit so that I'll have something going up every 2 weeks, chronicling the process of trying to get The Artificer's Wife done. I have spent so much time this past month working on my author platform. I'm basically taking everything apart and working back up from the ground up, restructuring my mailing lists, updating my website. I updated colors and social media profiles. I had a consult with a social media manager to figure out how to get back on track. It's been a lot of work. I've been so busy. So one thing that has really changed for me is that I have a lot more scheduled content going up on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. I'm doing more content batching so that I can be sure everything goes up regularly. And I'll probably share something about how I'm doing that, but not until I feel like I have a really good handle on it and know how I'm scheduling things to get a good balance. And also after I start figuring out how to narrow my focus a little bit so that I'm really focusing on the things that are getting good engagement and giving good results. Part of the updating comes from buying a bundle of courses for publishing on Infostack. And I know I mentioned that previously, and I'll go a little bit more in depth later on, but I've been working my way through the courses and I'm trying to do everything and apply everything as I'm doing them. And that means I'm going back to the beginning, restructuring everything, following the instructions in the various courses. I have 3 courses that I have completed so far, and I wrote down the names of them, so I'm going to pull them up to make sure I got them right. So the first course I did was the Happily Ever After Business Plan for Writers, and I felt like that was kind of a bare bones business planning, kind of like a basic introduction. My business planning has always been a lot more focused on the numbers, like finances, financial risks. Not so much just like the target of like what I'm hoping to do. And I think that comes from my dad being an accountant and a businessman. So it's like when I think of like business planning, I'm thinking of, like profit and loss. I'm thinking of like financial risks, different investments, how to get startup funds, things like that. And that course was really more focused on figuring out what is your overall, like your personal values for your brand, kind of like an idea of what you're aiming to do, where your business is going to fit, like as far as your own personal niche. So that's okay. Like, I guess it's good to have that kind of refresher since I'm going in and building everything back up from basically nothing. But personally, I wanted something a little bit more in-depth. It's kind of like baby's first business plan. And the second course that I did was called Get Recognized: How to Create Your Author Brand. And it was really short. It was only about like 35 minutes long, but it had a nice workbook with it that gave a lot of information on like power words to describe your brand and color, which I already knew a bit about branding and colors because, I went to school for graphic design, and that's kind of a thing that they teach you there, because being able to come up with like color schemes for logos and stuff it's kind of a big deal for graphic design. But I think my favorite part of that really short little course was kind of getting confirmation that all of the colors and everything that I chose, all of my taglines and things like that I've established for my author brand really do work for the kind of things that I'm writing. The third course that I completed was called Write, Rest, Publish, Success. And I kind of have to put a disclaimer there that part of the courses was after each act of it. It was separated into 3 acts. She wanted you to have part of a group, like a Zoom call or something. I didn't do that. I am way too much of an introvert for that, and that was not something that I thought was going to be beneficial to me. I felt like it was a good introduction to redoing your mindset for writing whenever you're chronically ill. That's been a major challenge for me lately. There were a lot of papers for like worksheets and exercises, and I really enjoyed printing those out and doing those. But one thing I did discover very quickly was that I didn't need to change a lot of my mindset. I already am pretty grounded in what I can and can't do. I'm overall generally pretty positive despite the challenges that I face, so I didn't really need to do the reframing exercises. There was an exercise in that course where you get your resilience score by rating yourself for how you approach certain challenges and how you manage discouragement. And when I went through that, I kind of realized as I was filling it out, it's like I'm actually like very stable and not easily discouraged by my health. So that was a little bit interesting, but I think the primary value of that course outside of the mindset changing was all the information about setting up an ergonomic and healthy workspace, which I've already done that too. So I didn't get a lot out of that course, but I think if somebody is newly diagnosed with chronic illness, then it would probably be a lot more helpful to them than it was to me, specifically because I've already had a couple of years to get used to, the fact that my new normal amount of work that I can do is constantly changing. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but the Infostack bundle that I got was called Write, Publish, Profit 6.0. So it's really kind of a mixed bag. There's a little bit of everything in the bundle, and when I first saw it, I was a little bit doubtful because I couldn't find any favorable information about this bundle. The only place that I found it mentioned it was an older version of it, and it was a blog post that had been copied and pasted across several author websites, which really just made it look more like a scam. But there was an author in the bundle who I felt like she was very trustworthy, and I was already interested in her course. So because the bundle contained several 𝗪𝗟𝑑𝑥 reports that I was already probably going to get, it was going to be a good investment for me anyway, because the 𝗪𝗟𝑑𝑥 reports came at a steep discount even if that was the only thing out of the bundle that I used. There's a lot of books in it, a lot of different publishing courses that are geared toward a lot of different levels, and there's some for fiction, some for nonfiction. The nonfiction ones are basically useless to me, but I mean the bundle was only like $49, so it's kind of hit and miss anyway. I didn't have very high expectations. I am looking forward to doing David Farland's writing course, which is included in the bundle, and I've picked up a couple of little tidbits of interesting or useful information, but it also feels like I am far enough along in my research and in my practice that a lot of these courses are actually not going to be very useful for me. The only book out of the bundle that I've read so far was the author's branding playbook, and that was actually probably one of the better books that I have read on branding for authors. It had a lot of really useful information. Since that book is, available on Amazon on its own, that's one that I probably actually would recommend if you're just getting started with like author platform building and establishing your brand. It was very good information. It was nicely condensed. There wasn't a lot of like wasted time or space in the book. It seemed like everything in there was very actionable, and I really appreciated that. Of course, for me personally, like I said, since I've already been doing this for a couple of years, it wasn't anything that was new to me, but it's always nice to go back over, just as like a refresher and get the information again. Even if I already knew it, it kind of, stirs up those memories and kind of gets things going again in my head, so that I think it's helping to put me back in the right headspace. The course that I started last was 𝗃𝗵𝗴𝗱's On Your Mark, which is supposed to show you how to draft a book in 6 weeks, but it really feels like it's targeting more nonfiction authors and also like new less experienced authors, and I haven't gotten anything useful out of that one. So I may actually skip the rest of that course and move on to the next thing, maybe something for building up my author funnel to get readers into my series. I'm not sure yet. I also haven't picked a book that I'm going to be reading yet out of the bundle, but I'm probably going to go with one of Elena Johnson's books next, because I feel like the information that she has shared on podcasts and things has always been really useful. Another thing that I'll be using out of the bundle is there is a launch checklist that I'm going to be looking over to see if I can use any of that for some actionable steps for releasing The Artificer's Wife. I don't know how easy it's going to be to jump in on the third book in a trilogy for a launch checklist, but it'll be interesting to go over it just to see how much aligns with what I usually do and how much of it fits onto a really tight timeline, because I'm going to be working on a very tight timeline with this book. And of course, at some point, I still need to get the paperback version of the Spy Master's Prize out. That's this one over here, because I still have not had a chance to sit down and comb through the paperback to make sure that all of the formatting is right. And that's like long overdue, and I feel terrible about it, but I'm gonna try to fit it in soon, hopefully this week after all the writing is done, but we'll see. My word count goal is a little bit high. My daughter is also still out on summer break, so my schedule is not really going to go back to normal for writing until August, and I'm just kind of doing the best that I can. Anything that I can get done this week is going to be a win, though. I'm just going to take it, you know, whatever I can get in. It's progress. I still hope that I can have the first draft done by the middle of August. I think that's a realistic timeline for me. Even trying to get back into the groove and working around the obstacles of having my daughter here constantly wanting attention, wanting to do things, wanting to go places. I'm gonna do my best to make it work. It might mean splitting everything up into lots of little micro sprints, but I will be vlogging my way through all of that, and I am looking forward to sharing it. So the next time you hear from me, I will share updates on which courses that I have done and whether or not they were useful, which books that I'm reading and whether or not they've been useful. And I will hopefully have a very big increased word count to share. So that's all this time. I have some work that I need to get done this weekend to get everything ready for writing again tomorrow. So I'm gonna stop right there, and I will check back in about 2 weeks. Bye.